Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
Julian's 6th birthday had been perfect until the box arrived. It was unassuming at first glance, brown cardboard with a small sticker marked fragile. I set it on the kitchen table between leftover cupcakes and glittery wrapping paper. Julian spotted it instantly. "Ooh, another present," he beamed. I checked the label. "From Grandma and Grandpa," I said, trying to summon a smile. He tore it open, fingers flying. Inside was a white baseball cap, crisp, structured, expensive looking. The kind I could never afford. "Cool," Julian laughed. "A hat." Then he tilted it toward me. "What's this, Mommy?" he asked, brow furrowed. My breath caught in my throat. Embroidered above the bill, in navy cursive thread, were the words, "Beloved Nico." Everything in me stopped. The air felt sucked from the room. I hadn't heard that name in years. Not out loud, not in this house. "Who's Nico?" Julian asked innocently. I snatched the baseball cap from his hands before I realized what I was doing. "It's no one. It's not for you." "But it has my size," he said, confused. "It was a mistake." My voice was firm now. "You're not wearing it." Julian blinked, lips parting, unsure whether he'd done something wrong. I turned away before he saw my hands shaking. Inside, old wounds tore open like paper. My brother's name, on my son's birthday. Again, Nico stealing the moment, the space, the light, the money. It was never accidental with parents, not when it came to him. I grabbed the box, the baseball cap, everything, carried it to the bedroom like it was contaminated, closed the door behind me and sat, holding it like a ticking bomb. The stitching glared up at me, unbothered. They hadn't forgotten Nico. They hadn't let go. They'd simply buried the truth under thread and cardboard. And they thought I'd accept that. But they very wrong. Nico had always been the golden child. Loud, reckless, dazzling. Even as a kid, he walked into rooms like they owed him applause. Teachers forgave his lateness. Strangers praised his charm. And my parents, they orbited him like he was the sun itself. And I was the shadow he left behind. I remember it clearly now, sitting on the couch while Julian played quietly on the carpet. My eyes lingered on the family photo from 15 years ago, still tucked behind the bookshelf. Nico in the center, grinning like he owned the world. I was beside him, half smiling, half forgotten. "Mommy," Julian asked, "why don't we talk about Nico?" I looked up, startled. "Who told you that name again? You said it yesterday, when you were mad at the hat." I exhaled slowly. "He's someone from before you were born." "Is he bad?" I swallowed. "He made bad choices, and he hurt people." Julian nodded like he understood, even if he didn't. "But Grandma and Grandpa love him." His words struck like a knife. They did. They always had. Nico could vanish for years, drain our accounts, lie, steal. Yet they'd still send him money, make excuses, keep the door open. Nico used fake documents to take out a loan in my name, took the money, and fled the country. While I, the one who stayed, who worked, who paid their bills and kept birthdays warm, was the forgettable daughter. That Julian birthday gift wasn't a mistake. It was a message from my parents. He still matters more than you. And that night after Julian fell asleep, I pulled out the manila folder I'd kept hidden behind the pantry jars. Inside were old emails, bank statements, my mother's wire transfers labeled urgent help to accounts I recognized all too well. Dates that aligned with the months I had to pick up their rent. Lies that now glared at me like accusations. Nico didn't steal alone. They helped him. I stared at the baseball cap again the next morning. Soft cotton, brand new, clean, and cruel. Embroidered across the front in gold thread were two simple words. Beloved Nico. Not happy birthday Julian, not even his name. Just Nico's. I sat frozen in the kitchen, holding it like it might burn me. Julian munched cereal nearby, unaware of the quiet storm swelling inside me. "They really did it," I whispered. I grabbed my phone and called my mother. She answered on the third ring, bright and clueless. "Jody, did the gift arrive?" "Yes," I said, voice sharp. Julian opened it. "Oh good. Isn't the baseball cap sweet?" "It says beloved Nico, Mom. On his birthday. Do you have any idea how disgusting that is?" A pause. Then, defensively, "It's just a small tribute. He used to love baseball caps." "This wasn't about Julian, was it? You sent that as a shrine to your golden boy. You're being dramatic." "No. I'm finally being honest." I ended the call before her guilt could mutate into manipulation. My hands trembled, not from rage, but from release. I went to the drawer, pulled out a blank card, and wrote with a calm I didn't feel. "You chose your son. I choose my peace. J." I slipped the cap inside a package, sealed it with the note, and addressed it to their home. No return address. Julian peeked in. "Are we sending something?" "Yes," I said, setting the box down. "We're returning a mistake." That afternoon, I blocked their numbers. Emails too. A silence fell that felt like snowfall, quiet, pure, cold, and necessary. For years, I bent myself backward, paying for their mistakes, cushioning their denial. But that baseball cap cut the cord clean. Not out of hatred, but out of survival. The silence didn't last. 2 days after I returned the baseball cap, the first email arrived from Dad. "Your mother is devastated." That note was cruel. She only meant well. I deleted it. But they kept coming. Variations on a theme. "We were just trying to include Nico in spirit. You're misinterpreting everything. You always overreact." Overreact? When my stolen credit was still haunting my file? When they took my money to send it to a fugitive son? They weren't reaching out to apologize. They were rewriting history and casting me as the villain. That night, I called my best friend Lena. "They're gaslighting me, aren't they?" "Oh, absolutely," she said without hesitation. "They want you to feel guilty for choosing yourself. But it still stings." "Of course it does, but ghosts only haunt where they're welcomed." I closed my eyes. The memories weren't fading like I'd hoped. Instead, they replayed sharper. Their lies, their guilt-tripping, the way they always tiptoed around Nico, even after he emptied my bank accounts and fled the country. "He's just lost, Jody. You're the strong one." No, I was just easier to exploit. The next morning, another package appeared at my doorstep. No sender, but I knew. Inside was a photo frame. One of those old family pictures. Me, Mom, Dad, and Nico, smiling like he'd never shattered anything. Taped to the back was a note. "Let's remember the good times. Don't let bitterness erase your heart." I sat on the floor, frame in hand, pulse steady. They wanted to haunt me with nostalgia. But I was done being haunted. I threw the frame in the bin, shut the door, and opened my laptop. It was time to document everything. The lies, the stolen funds, the years of quiet exploitation. If they wanted ghosts, I'd give them a truth they couldn't bury. The storm passed, but the debris remained. Digital threads of my family's manipulations and decades of silence woven between guilt and favor. I compiled everything, my financial records, Nico's fraud trail, bank transfers from my parents' accounts to his offshore haven. It was all there, time-stamped, undeniable. I wasn't preparing for revenge. I was reclaiming the truth. "You're sure you want to do this?" Lena asked, watching me scan the last set of documents. I nodded. "It's not about burning bridges. It's about not rebuilding what never stood." I handed the file to my lawyer, who took it directly to the authorities. Within weeks, the investigation began. The evidence was airtight. Nico was found and arrested, charged with multiple counts of fraud and identity theft, and ultimately sentenced to 5 years in prison. I blocked every number that had once called itself family. Weeks passed in quiet, and then, light. Julian, my son, burst through the front door one morning with his friend Toby from school. They'd started a comic project together, 2 heroes who protect each other no matter what. Toby's mother, Elise, stood at my doorstep. "I hope you don't mind. Julian insisted you be okay with hosting." I smiled. "Of course." She paused, then added softly, "He talks about you like you're magic." That evening, as the boys laughed over pencils and pages, I stood in the kitchen, letting the piece soak in. My story had been rewritten by others for years. Now I was writing my own, with those who stayed. Julian peeked in. "Mom, do we have more paper?" "Plenty," I said, handing him a fresh stack. "Plenty."
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.